Hello, MavMind Collective, and welcome to another episode of the Hypnosales Show. Today we're going to talk about the 5 tips for managing a team effectively. If you manage a team right now of customer-facing roles like I have, or if you have ambition to eventually be promoted to a position at some point of managing a team of people in customer-facing roles like you and I have, then I think this video will help you in remembering the tips and the tricks for managing a team effectively. Because it's taken me a while to get this down and figure this out. I've had to do this over a course of a couple jobs in my career to figure out the 5 tips I'm going to share today. And they are rooted in, again, the reason why you're probably on this channel and why you subscribe now to my channel, because you want to know about the subconscious level and the subconscious layers. What's going on underneath the surface when you're interacting with customers or with each other, with your boss, with your team, etc. It's a communication skill, and using the subconscious mind, taking advantage of the subconscious mind and how it works in order to have effective communication and have effective execution of tasks, project solving, decision making, all kinds of aspects of the job that you have in front of customers and behind the scenes internally when you're preparing with your team to get in front of customers, to create that customer experience and make that customer experience the best that it can be. So these tips are very, it might seem a little simple, but there's reasons behind it that I use myself and why I put them in this list, all coming rooted in that subconscious drive that we have that we're not even aware of. It's all subconscious, but that drive that we have to execute and to be the best that we can be. So the first tip on the list here is you want to make sure you always remember that everyone on your team is different. Everyone in your team models reality differently than you. Everyone in your team, each of them have their own way of framing things. They have their own preferences, like I've talked about in other videos on this channel. Different preferences. They might be towards or away people. They might be direct or indirect communicators. They might be sameness people or differences people. But you want to make sure you focus on those differences and embracing those differences and making sure that you don't always assume that they're all thinking the same way as you are about a task, a project, or whatever it is you're doing with the team at the time. At any particular time, you should always be thinking, this person might bring a different perspective. Maybe I need to ask more questions and really understand them and how they're different, and embrace that diversity that they bring to the team. And that's something that I'll talk about in another video. About the diversity of a team is very important. You really want to make sure you get different people on your team at all times to be effective. But managing a team effectively it's all about you as the leader remembering at all times and trying to suppress or avoid being a victim of your own unconscious bias or subconscious bias towards people maybe thinking like you think about things. Consciously push yourself outside the boundary and say, let me look at this person and see how they're looking at it differently, and what maybe they can contribute something different to the conversation or to the problem solving or the decision that we're trying to make as a team. Maybe they can bring something different that I didn't think about or none of us thought about. So always be embracing that difference and that diversity of that person's thinking and their mindset and the way they model reality, and always be open-minded to those things and be looking for those things to contribute towards the decision making or to the end result, the successful end result that you're looking to achieve when you're communicating with them as a team. Okay. Also, you want to focus on individual strengths. Everyone, because they're different and because they think differently and they model reality in a different way than you do, hopefully, they're going to have different strengths than you do. They're going to be better at things than you are. And as a leader, you have to be willing and humble enough and willing to accept and open-minded to say, this person might be better at something than I am. So embrace that. Focus on that. Reward them for bringing those strengths to the conversation, to the task at hand, to the decision that's being made. Don't avoid it. Embrace it, invite it, ask them, make sure you play to their strengths and reward them for sharing their strengths and leveraging their own strengths, because you want them to continue to do that. So you got to reward them so they'll continue to behave that way and contribute their strengths. And just, what I'm really saying with this is avoid, focusing on anything that they're not good at. Like avoid pointing out that they're not good at some aspect of something. Like some people would say, what's my weakness? Don't use that word weakness. Avoid using that word. Stop using that word. No one, even though they'll say, help me with my weakness, don't fall for that trap. Everybody, all of us want to know what we can do better. We all want to know what our weakness is, but don't fall into that trap of focusing on weaknesses. That never helps anyone. It never really it moves the ball forward. It doesn't really get the result in a very effective, timely manner when you focus on that. Focus only on the strengths and what they do well, and keep having them contribute their strengths, and they'll figure out if they want to focus on their own weaknesses. But don't as their leader, don't try to manage to their weakness. Manage to their strengths at all times. That's the most effective way you can do it if you want to get the successful results that you expect with your team and from your team as their leader. Also, someone's title, this is the third point here, someone's title and someone's role are two different things. A lot of us feel like title and role are the same thing. If my title is X, then my role is X. That's not true. What's true is that your title is something that's in an HR database or something on a business card that describes what you do. It sets expectations about maybe how you do things or why you are in the role that you are. But the role itself is different, and you always have to be, as a manager, be aware and conscious of the fact that someone's role, what you need them to execute on, might be different than what's on their business card. So even though they have a certain title, you still want everyone being able to switch hats and be open-minded enough to say, even though it's not my job, I'm still going to do that task and complete that task anyway, because that's my role in this project. Someone needs me to get this done, and I'm good at it. It's one of my strengths, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it, even though it's not my title. So you want to effectively try to eliminate or separate and decouple, so to speak, the title from the role, and remind people like, hey, I know your title is X, but could you do Y for me? Because you're good at it. Could you just do that for us? Because the team would appreciate, because you're really strong at that, could you help us with that? And always keep them open-minded to performing different tasks, even though their title doesn't reflect what their actual role in a particular project or a plan that you're rolling out. It's not the same thing. So keep that decoupled and keep that separated, and then you'll have much more effective results. At the end, you'll see there's much more effective results that come out of that. The fourth one here, as their leader, to have effective management of the team, you want to always have at least one meeting that's mandatory. At least one. You can have more. One is about what I found: once a week, once every couple weeks, a mandatory meeting that everybody in the team has to join, even if they don't think they need to be there. You make them join that meeting, and you have a very explicit, clear set agenda of what everyone's going to talk about. So you have readouts from each person, status checks, where is everybody on the project, what's going on with the team. Have very explicit, clear, crystal clear expectations of what everyone is going to do and when they're going to do it on that meeting in the time allotted. And you make sure that it's very formal, and it's very structured and rigorous, and you manage it and you facilitate it, and you make sure no one deviates and goes off on side conversations, what they call sidebars or rabbit holes. You just avoid that altogether, and you keep everyone on the agenda, on task, and you manage everyone's expectations very strictly to the agenda and the goal of that mandatory meeting. And what this does is it creates structure. It always establishes in their mind, consciously and subconsciously, that you are still the leader and you need to get some things done and you need the team to execute on some things. So you always want to have that structure, and you always want to make sure it's mandatory, make sure that people, unless they have emergencies or they're taking time off, they need to be in that meeting. It's mandatory. It's compulsory to them staying on the team and staying, in the business. Okay. So you want to make that very clear to them. That'll give them the structure they need to feel like they're part of something, and you'll get things done much more effectively because you're sticking to that agenda. Now, you also want to have, the last one here, you also want to have at least one meeting that's optional. Okay. Now, I have found that with all of us, more of us working from home more often now, where we're not in an office, one of the things that we are missing is that sense of being around people in an office. We're all stuck at home in our office by ourselves most of the time, or we're on meetings, Zoom meetings, remote meetings occasionally, some of us more than others. But after the meeting's done, then we go back to being by ourselves. And if you have nothing but meetings all day that are about work and nothing about like the normal things you talk about when you're in an office, because if you think about it, when you're in an office, you're going to be talking about other things outside of work. Like, hey, what did you do this weekend? You might say, hey, let's go get a coffee. Let's go to the break room. Let's go sit down and let's talk about this project, or let's talk about, and you might talk about the project, or you might talk about, something just personal. There's a certain social interaction that needs to happen in an office to make everyone feel like they're part of the company, and that it's not just all about work, okay, all the time. But being remote and attending remote meetings sort of leans us towards being about work all the time, and we have this social aspect that's missing completely a lot of the time. So I feel like it's important, if you want to have effective team management and you want your team to be effective in the execution of projects and tasks and problem solving and decision making, all of that, you need to have at least one social meeting, like optional, and make it social. Like, make it optional. They don't have to join if they don't want to. But if they do, don't have an agenda for it. Just say there's no agenda. I just wanted to get together, see how everybody was doing, what's going on. Let them tell you what they want to talk about. Let them bring up the topics that they'd like to discuss, or the questions they might want to ask you or other people on the team. And just let that popcorn style, let it happen naturally, because then it'll start to feel more like they're in an office, where they might just tap someone on the shoulder in their cube or their office and say, hey, can I talk to you really quick about this project really fast? And just let them kind of have that opportunity to do that on that optional meeting during that time that you set aside each week. I usually do it once a week, where we just get together and we talk about whatever we want. And if there's nothing to talk about work-wise, we talk about what we did on the weekend. We talk about what our plans are for this next weekend, or the holiday, or someone's taking some time off. What are you planning to do on your time off? Share and get to know each other, because we all want to get to know each other so we can feel more comfortable. And subconsciously, the more comfortable we feel, the more trust we have with our team, the more effective we are with our team in executing and working together as a team, the more we get to know each other. So make sure you always have at least one optional meeting in addition to one mandatory meeting each week. Make sure that you always make it very clear that the role that someone has is different than the title on their business card, and always focus on their strengths and what they do well, and leveraging their strengths for projects. And don't just avoid talking any time about their weakness. Don't do it. Just avoid it. And then just always remember, everyone on your team is different and thinks differently, and they appreciate when you acknowledge that they're different and that it's okay, and make it safe and comfortable for them to be different and to be diverse, and bring that diversity to the effectiveness of the team.
Thank you for watching. I know you find value in these videos, didn't you? Now, if you, like me, are in a customer-facing role, you want to get better every day at what you do, but you don't have to watch another video if you don't want to.